Donald Trump is all promises made, promises broken. After all, he promised he was going to end the war in Ukraine on the first day of his second term. But then by late April, after Mr. Art of the Deal had failed to get any kind of a deal for Ukraine and Russia, he said, no, you guys, I was just joking. I was joking when I said I was going to stop the war on day one. And now it's August of 2025, and this past week, Donald Trump not only let a war criminal set foot on U.S. soil, he met with him, took him for a little drive in his limo, and then let said war criminal completely mop the floor with him. Once again, Mr. Art of the Deal came away from that meeting with no deal. And now this week, Ukraine's President Zelensky is coming to the United States for more talks with the U.S. Ahead of those talks, Trump has been urging Ukraine to make a deal. I don't know if y'all remember way back to February. I know so much terrible shit has happened between February and now. But do you remember the completely humiliating spectacle that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio put on in the Oval Office the last time they met with Zelensky? Let me just remind you. Keep in mind, Ukraine gave up their nuclear capabilities in the 90s because the United States said, we are your stalwart ally. We will support you. We will protect you from Russia. And then Donald Trump and J.D. Vance completely abandoned, betrayed our close ally, Ukraine, ganged up on him on national TV. Remember?
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. It's
with
back
all respect
to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
even
entire
today,
meeting, you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
You remember now? Remember now? Anybody else's blood boil watching those clips again? Shameful. Absolutely shameful. Ukraine is our ally. I realize they're not Donald Trump's ally. Anytime y'all let J.D. Vance drift into the background and you forget how reprehensible he is, go dig up that clip and watch it. Just like on a loop. Watch that clip. Remember when they said Zelensky should have worn a suit? He was disrespecting Donald Trump because he didn't wear a suit. So now Zelensky is coming back to the United States, because he's an actual leader trying to get peace for his people as they are under attack from Vladimir Putin. The war criminal that Donald Trump let come to American soil that he was flirting with, cozying up to, taking on a ride in his limo. But Zelensky's not coming alone this time. He's bringing lots of friends and allies with him. I loved this tweet. Forget cards, Zelensky's bringing the whole deck to Washington. Honestly, I'm so grateful right now that these folks are standing with Ukraine. We should be standing with Ukraine. Ukraine is our ally. We, the American people, are standing with Ukraine. It's our president. It's our vice president. It's Marco Rubio who sold his soul long ago, who are betraying the people of Ukraine. I'm so ashamed. And it gets even worse than that. Today on Face the Nation, Marco Rubio, it's a good time to say shame on every Democrat that voted to confirm him because he was a former senator and it was a professional courtesy. This guy. Lest we not forget, Marco Rubio negotiated for immigrants to be sent to a gulag in El Salvador and was working to send American citizens to gulags in El Salvador. Marco Rubio was responsible for immigrants being sent to South Sudan. I know that he flies under the radar, like J.D. Vance a lot of the time, but Marco Rubio sold his soul for power. This is what he had to say on Face the Nation today. Oh, okay, real quick before I play this clip, Margaret Brennan, who's the host of Face the Nation now, thank you for doing real journalism. We see so few folks in corporate media who are willing to push back against the regime. We see corporate media more often than not be a mouthpiece for the regime, fail to fact check them, uncritically accept their propaganda as truth. And yet Margaret is pushing back. Margaret is fact checking. Margaret is doing journalism. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So here's the clip.
President Trump told Fox News his advice to President Zelensky is make a deal. Russia's a very big power, and they're not. There's concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you
No, it isn't. That's not why
reassure
they're
them?
coming as back. That's not true.
No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied.
Yes, they are.
They're not
That
coming.
February
In fact,
Oval Office
they're coming
meeting
here
in
tomorrow.
front of television cameras where President Zelensky.
You know how many meetings
was
we've had
dressed
since
down.
then?
Oh no, I know, and I was just up in
Yeah, but we had
Alaska
a bunch of
watching the
meetings
one with
since then.
Vladimir Putin where red carpet rolled
No,
out.
but
for the
with
rest of the leader. It was
Zelensky, we've
very
had more
different.
meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. But that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said
The
President Trump was going to
president's
demand a
talked to his leaders
ceasefire.
as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one. So there's
Because
some
obviously
messages.
things happened during that meeting. Well, because obviously look, our goal here is not to stage some production for the world to say, oh, how dramatic he walked out. Our goal here is to have a peace agreement to end this war, okay? And obviously we felt, and I agreed, that there was enough progress, not a lot of progress, but enough progress made in those talks to allow us to move to the next phase. If not, we wouldn't be having Zelensky flying all the way over here. We wouldn't be having all the Europeans coming all the way over here. Now understand, and take with a grain of salt, I'm not saying we're on the verge of a peace deal, but I am saying that we saw movement, enough movement to justify a follow-up meeting with Zelensky and the Europeans, enough movement for us to dedicate even more time to this. You talk about the sanctions. Look, at the end of the day, if peace is not going to be possible here, and this is just going to continue on as a war, people will continue to die by the thousands. The president has that option to then come in and impose new sanctions. But if he did this now, the moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks. You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there.
Wow. So Marco Rubio was floundering a lot bit there. Just a tiny bit defensive. Sorry that you sold your soul and now your job is to go on the air and try not to make Donald Trump look like a big chicken loser and a mean, petty bully. That's what you sold your soul for, Marco Rubio. That's your job now. And mad props to Margaret for being like, Donald Trump said he'd walk out of that meeting with Putin 2 minutes in, and they spent hours. They were supposed to have lunch together, and Vladimir Putin was like, no, I'm not having lunch with you. At the end there, Rubio was saying both sides are going to have to give something. But all we've seen so far is that the Trump regime is pushing Zelensky to give up everything. And they are failing utterly to get Vladimir Putin to give up a single inch. Putin is not intimidated by Donald Trump. I know I said this the other day, but like, of all the world's strongmen, why is it the United States got the one who is the biggest buffoon? The one that no other strong men are even remotely intimidated by. The one that is being played, his little strings are being pulled by all the other strong men, especially Vladimir Putin. These talks are going to end in disaster, and I hope that all of the European leaders, they stand up for Zelensky. And I hope that Zelensky understands that the American people, we are ashamed of what Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance are doing. The American people overwhelmingly stand with Ukraine. There's not a protest I've been to where there have not been a gajillion Ukraine flags. We know who our ally is, and we're so sorry. Our petty, fragile would-be dictator has abandoned the people of Ukraine, our ally for decades and decades, in order to kiss up to Vladimir Putin. That's shameful. It's shameful.